A woman contacted me whom I knew some years ago in another parish. She wanted to talk. She was struggling with her faith and trust in God because some disappointing things had happened to her in her life. Things more disappointing than the Vikings losing a playoff game. Okay? Things that really mattered. And she was having troubles with her family of origin because it was dysfunctional from day one. There were still problems. And she had experienced a freak accident which kind of left her hobbling around. And it didn't seem like God was listening and or answering her prayers. So then she asked. She said, "Do all those people in church have it all together? Because it sure looks like they do, and I don't." So I said I'd find out. Should I tell her y'all have it all together? I'm sure it will be a consolation to her. I said my best guess is that they're going to tell me no. That we all struggle. As I do. Because we don't always see the way. We don't always know what we want or need to know. We are, in some ways, like the Magi, who walk in darkness, looking for the light. If you look at the Magi, you look at some people who saw the light of the star in the darkness of their night. That's when we see the stars. But let's not take that only literally. That we also need to see the light in the darkness that we carry around inside of us, in those things that we just can't know, we don't see, and it looks dark. We don't know where we're going from here. And in their darkness, they saw a light and they followed it. They became searchers and seekers. Why else would some people who had money, who had resources, living in a comfortable palace, get up, get on their camels and cross the desert in discomfort and in danger to look for something else if they had it all? Why would they do that? So we have to assume that there was something more they needed in life, that there was some darkness there. And so they became seekers. Noticing the darkness, noticing the light, and wanting to follow it, hoping for a better world, hoping for a better life, for those things that they more dearly longed for. And aren't we that way? Wouldn't it be good if we could see the darkness that was there and recognize it as such? And wouldn't it be even better if we could see the light of Christ and saying, "Oh, that's what I need. That's the way I have to travel." And that's what they did. They followed the light, hoping and believing in God or more. The second thing is that they were not Jewish people. They were outsiders. And they were going into the land where these people were God's chosen people. And what chance did they have of being included in God's chosen people? Except somehow they must have, because they went into that foreign land, went up to the authorities and said, "We're looking for the king." And when they got to the stable, they found that they were accepted. They didn't say, "Get out of here, you're from another country, you don't believe." They were accepted, and they offered their gifts, and the gifts were received. And part of the theological import of the Feast of the Epiphany is that God's grace is for all peoples. What did we sing at the responsorial psalm? "Let all nations on earth adore you, Lord." That means that all people are meant to be together, to live in peace and in harmony. They were accepted. And I suggest to you that there are times in our own lives when we can feel alienated, kind of like on the outs, when perhaps we've messed up in life and think, well, I'm not worthy, I no longer belong. And we need to believe that indeed God still calls us to come together, whether or not we think we belong. Because there's nobody standing at our 5 doors here and checking out our membership cards, is there? You get to come in. And we all come together because, as we talked about at the beginning of the homily, we're not the only ones struggling. We come be here partially because we're struggling. And we believe that we can find some light, some guidance, some acceptance here, even as we are. And that we too are called to be people who accept everyone. That means that we include the Baptists, the Muslims, the Jews, the Hindus, and everybody else. We have to learn, we are called as being Christians to learn how to get along with other people and work in harmony with them. It's not only we sometimes feel alienated on the outs, but we are to be part of bringing others together. That's the second thing. The third thing is this. It was in the last part of the gospel where it said, and the Magi went home by a different way. And isn't that how it is? After we have met Christ, experienced His presence in our lives, after we have listened to His Word, experienced the community, we are then to go home and live by a different way. Is there anybody in here who can honestly say that every day, in all that I do, I always follow the way of the Lord? If you can, raise your hand. You're too smart for me. Of course not. We're not perfect yet. I know I'm not. We are called to come, to experience the presence of the Lord at this altar, in this community, through the Word, and to let it change our way of life, that we might walk a different way when it is not in keeping with the way of the Lord. And that is something that will be there the rest of our lives. I need to change that part of myself by God's grace. And that includes walking by a different way with our gifts. Because we each have gifts, talent, time, and we're called to share them more than we are, or maybe differently than we are. How can I make more of a gift of my life to somebody else? As the Magi made a gift of their presence to Christ, they were also giving themselves, their time, their energy. How is it that we can make more of a gift of our own lives? Walking in a different way when change seems to be required. And so you see, we don't have to have it all together to come here. Christ calls us together, and through the gathering, He helps us to get it together. And we are called to notice the light of Christ and to follow it with faith and hope in the better life that God calls us to live.